The most interesting thing about the NFIB's optimism index this month is that it's the first time we were able to capture sentiment about the government shutdown. And it's very clear that the optimism index has dropped because of the government shutdown. We see a correlation when we have something called the uncertainty index. When our members are responding to this survey, they usually say yes or no to a question like, are you planning to expand? When they start to say, I don't know, we know that they are having a high degree of uncertainty about policy. They're very responsive to government policy. This was definitely the shutdown.
That's fascinating, Kate, because shutdown didn't have to happen, of course. We might be heading into another one in just a couple of days, depending or not. The fact that it could hurt sentiment that broadly, I guess the other way to look at it, though, is, well, that's not a sign of a recession, per se. It's kind of a one-off event.
Yeah, Kelly, that's a great point. So the NFIB did point out that basically small business owners right now feel their current operations are strong. But as Juanita mentioned, the future looks a bit uncertain. If you look at the declines this month, the biggest drop was in those who expect the economy to improve, those expect real sales to be higher, and those plans to increase inventory. So that all signals they're a bit uncertain about what's to come, but right now things are okay. We also had our own data this week, which we chatted about when it came out on Monday, and we heard from our own polling that there were some concerns about a recession, but Juanita and the NFIB both have said that that's not quite what they're hearing from their membership.
So Juanita, based on what you're saying, if we don't have another shutdown, we should see optimism rebound, right?
Well, we have no reason to believe that it will drop. This optimism index has been operating at a very high historic levels since the day after the election in 2016. And even though it's jumped around a little bit, a point here, a point there, it's still been in very historic levels. So this was fairly dramatic for a 1 month jump. And it does not necessarily indicate that the rest of the economy is headed for a downturn. As Kate, I think, just mentioned, half of our index is composed of questions that are about current business operations. The other half are questions about the future, what do you expect in 6 months. So the questions that we are asking them about current business operations, those things are all very strong still. We're still seeing strong hiring plans. We're still seeing strong inventories and capital expenditures. But what does continue right now, which is very problematic for the small business owner, is they can't find qualified workers, or they don't have any applicants for workers for jobs that are open. So this continues to be their single most important business problem. And then if you layered on the 35-day government shutdown, it really shook their confidence quite a bit.
So finally, Juanita, you mentioned how high it's been since President Trump was elected a couple of years back. Did this index need to come back down to earth, so to speak? I mean, was there kind of a honeymoon period built into that? Or based on his policies, are we going to see it remain structurally higher?
Well, that's a very good question. I keep wondering how long it can stay up there. I mean, it's at these very historic levels for a period of time that's just unprecedented. So you have to think to yourself, well, you know, it will have to come down to earth. But that's not necessarily what we're seeing. And I think if the return to gridlock doesn't become the norm, gridlock, you know, is bad for small business. If they can get back to having some consensus about just basic things like keeping the government open, I think we'll be polling about business operations and not what the government's not doing for you.